Welcome to AI Trust Talks. I'm so excited to have you all here today. I'd really like us to start off by hearing just a quick intro about who you are and the experience you have and the expertise you're bringing to the table today. Melodena, if you could start, please.
Thank you for having me. So, I'm a professor of innovation and technology governance. I work at the Mohammed bin Rashid School of Government. So, it was set up in 2005. Our mandate is good policy and governance. So, a lot of work on frontier tech and AI is one of the things I'm passionate about.
Thank you. Welcome to the show today. Mimi.
Hello. So, my name's Mimi, and my specialism is in how we create more empathy and human connection in the world. So, this conversation around AI and whether it's going to kill our empathy or grow it is one that I seem to have on shows and stages around the world. So, I'm really looking forward to the conversation.
We're glad to have you here. Dr. Farzana.
Hi, my name is Farzana. I am the founder of Mode Solutions and I run a digital marketing company here in the UAE. My expertise also lies in AI because I build technologies for UAE, UK, and US markets. And the third last part of this is that I'm also building something in AI human rights and AI empathy and influence. So it's wonderful meeting you all here.
Thank
Same
you.
here.
Well, to start us off, I want to ask all of you the same question here. So we've called this session Human After All. What does that phrase mean to you? And is AI helping us become more human or less?
Oh, that's a tough one.
Oh, big question. The pressure begins.
That's a good question, actually, because in some of the work that I do across frontier tech, the question I actually pose to some of my students or to my audience is, what does it mean to be human? And they'll come up with things like, I smile, I think, I do. And then you go and say, well, don't animals do that? Now a machine can do that. And we get really stuck because no one really knows what it means to be human. So I guess the question I would say is, are we losing touch with humanity?
Mm.
And that would be a better thing. If human beings thrive on social ecosystems and connections and relationships, sometimes it is very easy to transfer that feelings and emotions to a machine and at the cost of human beings.
Mm.
Good
Interesting,
advice.
isn't it? The question, what does it mean to be human? And you're saying your students are like, actually, I don't know what it means to be human, right? I think that to be human, and you mentioned this, Melodina, is that it's about the relationships that we hold and that connectivity between us. So I don't think that AI has any chance of ruining that. I just don't see how a machine will ever take away my relationship with you as a human. And for me, that is what makes us human, because we are a pro-social species, right? We exist because of the ecosystems that we are as groups, and that's been the same since tribal times, since we were cavemen and women. So I don't think that there's any chance that AI is going to steal our humanity, but maybe you ladies will disagree.
Love it. Farzana, what do you think?
I would never disagree with you on that. Like I said, I love technology. I build technology. Here's something that I believe in. Every single line of code ends on nervous system, right? These codes are written by humans. It's us. We made the AI. It's not the other way around. So is it gonna make us less or more? In my opinion, it's just going to magnify who we are.
Mm.
Right? It made us efficient in a lot of ways. 25% efficiency as per IBM. But the question here is, like you said, it's on us now. By design choice, what do we prefer? And I think humanity would definitely win on this one. But that's on us, right? That's absolutely on us.
Yeah. Interesting insights. And humans have got a long way to go to
Oh, yeah,
keep it safe and ethical. So each of you bring a different lens to emotional intelligence. What's the most dangerous myth about empathy in the age of AI?
Whoa.
Can I start?
Yes.
While you're like, what is that? So because I get to have this conversation every day, not necessarily in the context of AI, but just in the context of empathy. And I think that the biggest issue is that most people don't know what it is. So there is a huge amount of confusion between empathy, sympathy, and compassion, amongst other things. So maybe we can start there, right? Which is that empathy is fundamentally a skill set. It sits in the prefrontal cortex of the brain, and it's the ability to be able to perspective take, to understand where somebody else is coming from, to see the world through their eyes, versus something like sympathy, which is an emotion. Sympathy is a feeling, right? I feel pity for you. Or compassion, which is an action, which may come off the back of empathy or sympathy, in fact. So I think the biggest challenge in this age of AI and this discussion around, is it going to kill our empathy? Well, the question is, do you understand what the empathy is in the first place? Because once you understand what it is, there is no way that it can be taken away. So that's where I would start. That the biggest myth is what it is.
Yeah, that's a good starting point. Do you want to add to that?
I would love to add to this point. I think the biggest myth that we have right now in AI part and technology part is believing that AI can have empathy.
I agree.
AI cannot have empathy. We need
Interesting.
to definitely understand this again. And after that, AI, it's code, it is lines, it's signals, it's patterns, recognitions, not human.
Interesting.
Once you absorb that, it's more clear to understand that yes, AI is definitely doing a job for being a tool, which it is supposed to be, but I don't think that this is one of the myths that people have right now, that AI can feel or AI. And that's why a lot of people are unfortunately using it to have intimate conversations that should not be there in the first place. I think that's why we are here today, to keep in mind that AI safety comes with empathy from humans and understanding that AI is a code of conduct, it is a tool. And let's keep it that way. So I think one of the myths is that we are giving it a lot more bigger platform in fields of empathy, in emotional intelligence. We need to understand that there's a fine line here that needs to be drawn, right?
I agree with both of you. I just want to add one perspective because you said empathy lies in the
Frontal cortex.
prefrontal cortex,
Yes.
and I think it can be developed, right?
Yes.
So one important challenge that we have, and this might be a myth, is if we introduce it too early to children, that maybe they might be not getting enough of those skills developed the correct way. And they may transfer some of that thinking that a machine is empathetic. So the myth is, when should you introduce it?
Yeah.
And by putting a kid in front of a iPad when they're 2 and thinking they're playing with it unsupervised for hours, they're getting more intelligent. I think there is a little bit of worry on that one.
This is a really key topic, and I actually just had a session yesterday on children and AI and what we'll do it for the future generations. So very topical, and again a key issue or discussion that we need to keep having. So Mimi, I want to stick with you. So you've said empathy is the most underrated or misunderstood, underused skill in business.
Yes.
Is AI making that worse?
I don't think AI has any impact on it, to be honest. It might someday, but I think that the gaps we have in leadership are all ours. And to blame it on AI is just a cop-out, really.
Yeah.
Because the AI, I think the thing is, people can believe that their AI is empathizing with them. Because often it does, right? So I use ChatGPT. That's my platform of choice. And I love it, right? It helps me endlessly in my work. And of course, I always call it a he. In my mind, it's a he. But he always tells me how great I am, right? So if I say, that answer's not deep enough, I feel it's a bit shallow. He'll say, you know what, you're absolutely right, Mimi. I really understand why you're saying that. So of course, it's quite easy for someone, especially a child, to think, oh, he understands me, because he's verifying or validating how I feel about the answer. But the reality is, it's just a reflection of you, right? And I think the thing is, the AI can do a good job of reflecting emotions, but it can't read context like a human can. So I'll give you a context or an example of this. Often in our airports, at our stores, more and more, we'll have robots, like little robots running around. And maybe they're having fun, they're happy robots, and they sing and they dance and they do customer service. But that's all they do. So if somebody comes in feeling very upset or crying, or there's been a trauma outside, well, the AI-tuned robot won't know that. So the robot won't adapt to the context. So in that way, there can't be any empathy, because it can't read emotions in that way yet.
Yeah.
Maybe one day it can. But is the issue of AI shifting how poorly we are able to communicate in the workforce? No, not yet. I think that's on us.
So empathy is still one of the key skills we need in the workplace.
I think it's, yes, I think it's according to the World Economic Forum, it's in the top skills that we need by 2030 if we're to turn around our economies. We're talking about economic growth. So yes, it's up there. If we don't understand each other, how are we ever going to drive any performance?
But I would like to add something. So this comes to something you said about productivity, right? So today the AI tools give you speeds. They're like on steroids.
Yeah.
And it's so easy when you're confronted with, let's say, a partner at work that is working at 200% you are, that you stop looking at people, because understanding emotions takes time, understanding context takes time. And that way you might push your empathy to the side and you will make decisions which are based on numbers, which machines are really good at doing. But people hopefully aren't only making decisions on numbers. They're taking other things into context. And that might be getting a little bit diluted when you have a team partner that's working on steroids.
I think this is when the literacy point comes in that we were talking about earlier,
Yeah.
is how do we educate users to understand that?
Yeah, we were actually talking about it, that how much important it is for people to understand AI first. If we start with that, it would definitely unlock empathy in these levels, and people will start relating to empathy on that as well. So I'm definitely with both of you on that.
And I want to stay with you actually, Dr. Farzana. So you've worked on emotional intelligence in tech startups. What happens when empathy is coded into systems?
That's a deep question. She's asking really tough questions. She's putting everybody on fire. That's a very interesting question as well. So, like I said, we have to understand first thing that AI is a set of codes. These set of codes are signals relayed from humans. Like when we talk about empathy in a coded ecosystem, at that point things change. For us, an AI is a reflection, basically, of patterns, voice recognition, your facial expressions, and everything else. Clue of these two together, kind of the amalgam is very, very difficult to keep. AI works on performance pattern method, as we all know that. It recognizes your voice, it recognizes your tone, but recognizes the tone of who? You and me. It's from people. It's our patterns. So when we are building up an LLM or we're building up a machine, we are feeding it our emotions. And when we are feeding it with our emotions, we're also feeding it with our bias. A study actually was conducted and it told us that the data corresponding to dark-skinned women showed more error patterns than white-skinned men. That's where the code is. It's in my hand. It's a performance pattern. I'm making it. I'm going to bring it back to what I believe in. I believe in human-centric AI. Humans at the center of AI. However, I also believe that there should be regulations and lines and guidances and boundaries to keep all this very preserved. I can only teach a machine empathy to a certain level, and then I cannot put it on fault, or I cannot say that it went rogue. It's my data, it's us, it's human data that we are feeding to the machine. So I think that should answer that. Corresponding to the queue of both, I think when we code AI, I code proxies of human emotions. We cannot any which ways code emotions in a machine.
And valid point. I think regulations have a really good role to play for those that may not understand the impact or those that may need guidance on to do the right thing. Not everybody in the world does want to do the right thing, and there's some areas that we need to work on, but it's good points. And Melodena, I'd like to stay with you. So if emotional intelligence becomes a measurable output of AI, do we risk redefining empathy as a performance metric rather than a moral capacity?
So here's where I'd start with. I'm not really sure we have defined emotional intelligence really well. I know we have tools to measure it. I don't think they're 100% accurate. So how can we transfer that to a machine? We are really at the beginning of understanding the human brain itself. So it's interesting. AI was mimicking human intelligence. If we don't understand human intelligence, how is a machine as intelligent as a human being? The other thing that I think is really important for us to understand is how machines work. So you mentioned codes, and I really like that. At the heart of a machine are transistors. They're on and off switches. I'm not sure our human brain is actually designed with on and off switches, right? While we're trying to do that with machines with the best technology that's there, There's so much of research that's coming out that we sense with our heart. They now found brain cells in the heart.
Did
They found, I think, heart cells in the calf. They're finding all these strange, amazing things about the human body. So we don't even know whether our intelligence also is ancestral. We have some footprints from the past. So we're at the beginning of understanding human intelligence. I think it's very important we realize, yes, the machine and the tool is good. I'm not sure it's equivalent to human intelligence. And if emotional intelligence is what sets us apart from a hammer or a shoe or a mobile phone or a computing system, it's not emotional yet.
And do you think, I think I know the answer to this, but do you think AI is going to help us to define the human intelligence faster than we do today and that understand more about the human body?
I think it will definitely help us explore. So the thing is for us to understand our limitations and to understand the tool's limitations and work together on a good partnership. So what it has is speed. It has the ability to take diverse pieces of resources and put them together. I can't put a million encyclopedias in my head. I might have pattern recognition, but I certainly cannot remember them word to word, right? But an AI could in some cases. So let's look at how we can take the best of the tool and the best of the human being and combine them. But that means I don't start with the premise that all humans are bad and AI is better. I start with the premise that humans are good and AI is good, and I try to find the best way to team them up together.
Yeah. Find that balancing act between the two.
Nice.
So Mimi, I'd like to come to you and I want us to talk about emotional AI.
Yes.
Systems that read, respond to, or simulate human emotion. Are we building tools for connection or manipulation?
Probably both. Because as you were just saying, I mean, I also have the assumption, I believe deeply that most people are good, but not everyone is good, right? And anybody can code. So I think, again, the question comes back to understanding what empathy is. Can you use empathy to manipulate others? Yes. But can you use kindness to manipulate others? Yes. Can you use anything to manipulate anyone? Yeah. Do you know what I mean? It's a choice. We have, as human beings, we have choice how we want to be ethically and morally, how we want to show up in the world.
Yeah.
But on the whole, I think that the potential for it to do good, to create connection, is higher than the risk of it pulling us apart. I believe I'm very optimistic, Emma, about what
I like
do,
this.
right?
Yeah.
And I think, one of the ways that I always look at that is that a lot of these conversations around things like AI, they happen in the very, very developed world, very first world cities and brains and doctors around the world having these conversations. But if you think about what that AI can do in communities that are far less developed and stable than the one we're sitting in, we're here in Dubai, right? And you perhaps think of a relatively rural African town in Kenya. And there's a young girl in that town who wants to be a doctor. And she's very smart and very capable of being a doctor. But her parents have never worked anywhere but the fields in the area they live in. So they have no idea how to help their very smart daughter become a doctor, and nobody else in the village really does either. But she can come home at night and via a phone, she can speak to an AI coach or an AI anybody, even ChatGPT, and ask ChatGPT for advice. Now, will that advice be as good as Melodena's? Maybe not, right? But will it be significantly more worldly than perhaps what the people in her direct community can offer her?
Absolutely.
Perhaps.
Absolutely.
And then maybe it says to that young woman, well, did you know that actually within a 3-hour bus ride, you can go and do a pre-diploma so that you can be a doctor? So is that making us better? Is it connecting us with the world? Yes. So I don't think that the AI conversation is all about the complexity and level of speed and change that we talk about at these phenomenal events like GITEX, when you can believe that AI is going to change the entire world tomorrow, and you get served coffee by a robot. But there are many parts of the world where AI can significantly uplift connection and conversation and things like coaching that they would otherwise never have access to. So of course there's a risk, but no risk, no reward. And I believe that most people are good. So I think that most people will take these tools for the better of humanity. Let's hope so, Emma.
Good example. Good.
I would like to add something
Please.
to that. So I do some work with African Union, and I love some of the stuff coming out of the African Union when they're looking at the Continental AI Plan. And one of the things they actually talk about is the wisdom of elders. Now, places like Africa, and if I look at Latin America and Asia, they have tremendous traditional indigenous knowledge. LLMs don't have that.
Yeah.
They're only based on what's codified in written knowledge. And what's happening right now is that ancestral knowledge is getting lost because we don't value it, and because we're not capturing it, and because we're replacing it with only what is written down, and that's mostly Western centric. So there is a danger I think we need to be very careful and very cognizant of when we introduce these systems in, which have tremendous, I'm not saying that they cannot uplift, they can definitely uplift, but we should not make communities run away from their roots in some ways. I think it is very important to realize, we're still realizing right now, there's so many cures in the, in the rainforests and many other old cultures that we didn't even know, and we didn't even conceive or, think of them as a cure. So we have to be careful with that.
This is a really, really valid point and topical as well. It's a great example. I think there's a huge opportunity for those to have access to information they may not have had access to before, but the loss of culture, the loss of that wisdom and cultural differences that we see, because LLMs are mainly trained on English language, and we do lose a lot. So we all collectively need to make a decision, a movement to be able to adapt to parts that have been lost or will be lost if we don't take action.
But Emma, question on that. Is that AI or technology that's doing that? Or maybe both. But there is a difference, right? Because I live in Asia. And so a lot of that cultural loss, it's been going for years. And that's not because of AI, it's because of tech. And not all tech is AI. I don't have an answer for that. It's just an interesting
What happened
question,
after
right?
2020 is the speed of AI adoption has become crazy.
I
So,
was going to say
and
that.
because AI is data, hardware, and software, so the code is software, but the data at the end of it is, again, mostly Western one. So we have to be very mindful of that too.
Yeah.
And I'm going to add to the same thing. AI is a catalytic technological reformation. It is the birth of technology now. So there was a lot that we could have done in the past and conserved a lot. Like you said, yes, I understand and I definitely, but now it's a very fast process. What could be done now is what we should be focusing on, because it's there. It's out there. Everybody has AI. 14% of corporates along the world have been penetrated by AI. So now is the question, how do we fix it? Where do we draw the lines? I'm still gonna focus on that. Where do we draw the lines? And how important it is to acknowledge empathy in all this process as well, because it will be drawn by humans. Humans will make machines. Machines cannot make humans.
So
Until the end. I will know.
That's a good one.
So, Dr. Farzana, do you think AI should be allowed to simulate empathy in healthcare, education, or customer service, even if it's not real?
Simulate, yes. Substitute, no.
Ah, good.
Simulate, I'll just give a small example. I'm sick and I want to reach a doctor in the middle of the night. And there's a small administrative work in the middle. I want to do my documentation and I'm sick, really sick, God forbid. I'm sending all my documents to AI and he's doing his job and he's making the process faster. And now I can go and see the doctor. He simulated empathy, because if you see chatbots definitely say thank you and sorry and I'm sorry that you feel this way. That's all I need from it at that very point.
Not to give
It's
you a
not-
diagnosis.
No, I don't want to. Oh, no, no, no. No. So my point is simulation is nice, fine, amazing, but substitution is absolutely a no, right? It can definitely fasten the process, it can do a lot of things, but I would not. I'm a mother of a 1-year-old, so I am very careful knowing what the AI is like, and alhamdulillah, having a little bit of knowledge of AI and technology. I want to subject my daughter to the real world, to real people. It's the kind of thing that their generation is going through it very fast, right? So to teach her empathy, I wouldn't want her to go to a bot. I would want her to learn with me, to the field, to you, to other women, to understand the nuances of human, to listen. So, yes, I would love to simulate a couple of things here and there, even in my daily life. Sometimes I want to rant and I go to ChatGPT and I'm like, if you check my ChatGPT history, it's always in the bottom, make it polite. It's simulating my emotions at that point. But it cannot substitute me, and it should not substitute me. Does that
If you ever want to have some fun, ask ChatGPT to roast you, and it will give you grief about everything you've ever said to it.
done that. Guilty. I've done that. So that is also one part of ChatGPT. It can roast you really well,
Yeah,
but it's a people pleaser.
yeah.
That's what it is taught at the
But it's also showcasing to you how much
Mhm.
information it's learned about you.
Yes,
Mhm.
it knows a lot.
Yeah.
knows a lot.
It
Knows a
does.
lot.
It's like very
Okay.
actually.
So, Melodena, is it ethical to build AI that understands emotion, even if it can't experience consequences?
Oh, that's a tough one. So, how do you build it to understand emotions? And it comes back to exactly what you said. You can simulate that it's pretending to understand emotions by giving it some signals. Look at the face. It's a smiley. Is it not? By the way, there's been some research that says culturally that doesn't work very well. There's some cultures that smile and some cultures that do not smile. And it doesn't mean that they're grumpy. It's just that's in their culture. They don't smile in public. So the problem is it's again how you train it and what data you're actually putting inside. And then we have to ask for what purpose are we, so why are we doing that? It's obviously to take a decision. And I think the bigger question we have to ask is that an ethical use for a decision?
Mm.
Right? So if don't start with the machine, start with the decision and then ask, should a human being actually be ethically responsible for that decision? Are you delegating to a machine?
What's the impact of that decision? If the impact is too big, if the risk is too high, whether it should be a machine or a human to make that decision.
You have to make those decisions. And I think that's where good governance comes. So when do you delegate? Why are you delegating? If it fails, who's responsible? And generally right now, when I go around the world and I ask who's responsible, I hear the question, the user, because they used it and they signed the terms of reference. Honestly, have you ever tried to read through the privacy statements and terms of references? It's like going down a rabbit hole.
Yeah.
Click here, click here, click here, and then you forget what you clicked and where you started from and where you end. And then you go and you see that very often when you ask people, they're like, oh, it's the lawyers. The lawyers say, well, I don't know what it's actually used for. Or it's the IT department. IT department says, well, I'm not responsible for purchasing, so I wasn't responsible for terms and conditions. So really, we have a governance issue with companies, but also wide-scale literacy, because things like chatbots are widely available. Everyone's using it, and I'm not sure whether everyone knows the implications of giving data to that machine and who has access to that and how it can be used against you, maybe.
Agreed. Literacy, accountability, really, really difficult for us to get there at speed of AI being developed. Do you think it's ethical to have something like a privacy statement or a terms of reference that's 30 pages long versus something that is easy to read and tells you exactly what it will and won't do with your data?
So that's something I really think that it needs to be simplified. I lived in Germany. I missed those days when it was simple and I could say, yes, I agree, and no, I don't agree. And I still had access to some services. I've moved now to different parts of the world and I find I don't have the same privileges. I do think it is a government's responsibility to make sure that the statements are simple so that the user, especially since most of us are on a mobile, we're not using it on a big computer screen, that it fits in the mobile. We know exactly what we're giving access to and why.
Good points. So, Mimi, what's the ethical line between emotional intelligence and emotional engineering?
I don't know what the line is, but what I would say is that we are failing at emotional intelligence and empathy as people. So who is going to teach these things? I mean, that for me is the biggest concern about when it becomes emotional engineering, is that the people that are doing the coding are not emotionally intelligent enough to teach emotional intelligence. And if they were, I wouldn't have a job, right? So we have lost 48% of our empathy in the last 30 years, and it is showing up in so many issues around the world. And I would not ever stereotype a group of people to be more or less empathetic, because you can't. But for the sake of an argument, many of the software companies that I work for, again, massive stereotypes here, but just for the sake of conversation, many of the software or engineering-led organizations that I work with say that they have a higher amount of introverts than other types of organizations, right? And that they have many people who develop software, develop code, like to be quite quiet and alone. They tend to work as individual contributors versus in a team. Generalization, right? These people, one could argue, are not the most emotionally intelligent, communication-focused people in our workforces, and yet they are the ones that are building the code that you're talking about, Dr. Farzana. So I think where that line is between intelligence and engineering is if you have engineers engineering a code into a system because they've been told that they should, that they don't really understand. The line is going to be very squiggly, right? That line is going to be very blurry. So, and sometimes people come to me and ask me about that. Will I help them train bots? And I always say no, because quite frankly, I don't want the responsibility. But probably I and all of us should say yes, because someone should be teaching what this really is. And if people knew, we wouldn't be in the situation that we're in with 52% of the planet being lonely. We are so lonely, it is the highest burden on our healthcare systems worldwide. Not cancer, not diabetes, loneliness.
Wow.
We are so incapable of communicating as humans that we are killing ourselves. We have 900,000 people a year die every year of loneliness. And now we're worried about whether the machines that we are creating can solve the problems. So the line, I think, is very blurry, Emma.
Do you think AI is going to make that percentage worse? Because we have
loneliness?
people that are potentially lonely today interacting with chatbots, interacting with AI. We've already seen children commit suicide because the chatbots told it to, right? Do we think that statistic is going to get worse?
Look, I'm not an AI expert, but I'm relatively well versed in loneliness and empathy. And I think it will get worse before it gets better, but I'm not sure that that's purely on AI. So a few years ago, before AI was moving this fast, people would have asked me that question about social media, the exact same question, because as humans, we quite like to blame the technology for our own problems. AI may, and clearly has, you just mentioned a case of somebody taking their life, may be responsible for some of that loneliness and some of these decisions, but at the same time, it's connecting people in phenomenal ways. The same would go with social media if you're having that conversation. Can social media propagate bullying and toxicity and segregation? Yes. But can it create community and connection? I mean, we all met here, I think, because of LinkedIn.
Yeah.
Right? So can it create, I mean, maybe we're going to become great friends. Who knows? And I feel the same with AI. So I don't know if it's going to make it worse, but what I do know is it will in some cases make it better.
Yeah. And you've talked about how empathy isn't universal, and you've touched on statistics here. It's shaped by culture, gender, and power. How do we ensure emotional AI doesn't flatten or stereotype human experience?
You can only do that by the amount of diversity that there is in the people that are coding and creating. And I think we've already touched on, right, very gently, this is a slightly male, slightly Western-centric reality at the moment. The only way to codify empathy is to have a wider array of people coding those platforms that have those experiences. And of course, that takes a huge amount of intention. Because if you want to codify Zulu culture and what sawubona means, right? So in Zulu culture, when you greet someone, you say sawubona. And that doesn't mean hello, it means I see you. And you respond by saying, I see you too. If you want to be able to codify these type of cultural norms into a system, into a code, you're going to need Zulu people to do that. It can't all be made in, I don't know, San Francisco or wherever most people are coding. So I think diversity is such a buzzword, but I think it's a huge part of that. If we want to reflect the human race, then the human race has to create the AI that's reflecting itself.
Yeah.
Did you want to add to that?
I definitely would agree with that. I mean, it's all synthetic data, right? The data we feed to an AI, it's synthetic. It's not real, not entirely real. So we'll come back to that in a while. But she's absolutely right. Diversity is a buzzing word, but if applied right, we could do so many good things with AI. Will it or will it not? Emma, let me be very honest with you. We don't know yet. Yet. We have seen so many technological revolutions. I mean, I come from a generation where there was once upon a time a landline, and then it changed to a very big phone. You would go to the window and you would
Lights.
right? And there was no social media. And then there was this social media, and parents were very concerned. Who is my kid talking to? I was that kid, by the way. So I know. And then, but I think we all got over these slowly, and the government and the responsibilities, and it's not all on the government as well. Empathy is inside you. Please correct me if I'm wrong. It's not government's job to teach me. It's a design choice. Like I said in the beginning as well, it's a design choice. Is it making us less or more human? It's just magnifying who we basically are.
I agree with
So,
that so much.
so I don't know.
That
I'm not gonna say I'm an AI expert and I know everything about this and that and that. I am a human. Don't expect me to know everything.
Mm.
But yet, we have time. We still have time. So diversifying inclusion of people who actually should be there, their data should be revised. All the stereotypical things or all the biases, if eliminated, AI could be a blessing. But if we keep feeding it the same biased data as forever, then it's going to be something else. And maybe I'll be working for AI and a podcast will be here and we will not be watching it from the phone, maybe somewhere on a hologram. But my point is, the future is too fast and it's slow at the same time. That's the beauty of being human. We have time to be humans. We have time to build these as humanly as possible.
I find that a really interesting perspective when you say that we do have time, because some would say we're too late. We're too late to fix the errors of AI that have already caused harm already.
Call me optimistic on this, but let's just be fair and square here. A lot of people don't even see the bigger pyramid of AI. GPT is not AI. It's just a small little tool that AI has produced. AI is big. The AI that we
The
were talking about,
capabilities
the
are big.
capabilities of AI, the ones that are in the government lobbies, it's bigger. It's huge. It's way huge. Than now the impact is it's fast, undoubtedly, but we have time to fix things now. You and I, aren't we talking about it right now?
Yep.
So we are doing our bit as of now, as in this very moment. Nothing. Call me very optimistic about it, but I don't think that you can't fix things unless I have breath in my body and I'm working. We can fix it, and together with an ecosystem of wonderful people like who are here on this cast right now, I think it's fixable. Everything is fixable, but now now is the time. Now is the time when we should have these uncomfortable conversations, because these are not very comfortable at the same time. You just said about the mental health cases. Children are talking to AI bots, taking their lives away. These are precious lives. These are children. Can I blame AI? If I'm the parent, I will. If I'm the parent, I will blame the GPT at that point. I don't care who made GPT. I don't want to know the nuances. Education now. Now is the time when I have to sit my child down and tell him or her and educate myself, first of all, about everything that's going on. Otherwise, then we will not have time.
But also, Emma, question, who is saying we don't have time? And I would argue that I'm going to answer my own question, the media. So why are they saying it? They're saying it because the media is based on fear. That's what sells, right? So who is it that's saying, well, we've run out of time, it's too late? It's a message that's created to create fear and discomfort.
Hype versus fear. What are your thoughts on this? So you know you'd have something to see, but something to say, to be looking at us and to like, yeah, here.
Okay, so now I'm like nervous. Okay.
We roll with you.
You rules AI ethical frameworks globally. What's missing when it comes to regulating? Do you think the time's passed? Do you think the time's now?
So like you said, AI has been around for a long time. It's hardware, so we've been putting into 4G, 5G. You can't do that with that you've been putting into the chips. We've been collecting data for a long time. We've been coding for, I don't know, there's 8,000 coding languages. I think I learned BASIC long back ago, and now no one ever uses that. So it's been there for a long time, but the adoption right now has systemic effects. So I can build an AI for defense sector and it can be used for healthcare or vice versa. I can take data from the financial sector and use it for job employment. And I think that's where some of the challenges are, because we don't have regulatory oversight on that. And I love asking this question. If you have a Tesla, is it a car or is it an AI? Because it collects a lot of data.
Wow, yes.
And it sends a lot of data, does tremendous amount. But under which regulation does it go? So we look at it for car safety, but should we also be looking at it for AI safety? So currently, right now, The problem is, I think from a regulatory point of view, globally, we're not really sure in which bucket to put it in, right? And that is the challenge. I can collect data from children by putting them in front of a machine and looking at their test scores. What happens 20 years from now? Can I use that as predictive data for employment? Would that be a problem? But right now, we don't have rules against that.
This is actually a really good point. I was just having a conversation with someone yesterday. So some organizations are considering AI, like as part of an enterprise risk management framework. AI is a risk that accentuates other risks, privacy, cybersecurity, etc. But then do we need to get to a point where AI is a risk in itself? And I think this is quite relevant to what you're saying about we've got regulations around car safety, but then the car is potentially classified as AI. Should we then apply AI safety to that? So does it just accentuate car safety risk, or should it be considered as a risk in itself?
And the answer for that is there is no answer. Why? Because the context keeps changing, right? So with traffic, I can't really know that. AI requires updates. A few days back ago, my daughter called me up and she said, "Are you okay, Mom?" And I said, "Why?" And she said, "We have Find My Friends. So because my kids live in different parts of the world, we all keep tabs with each other just to make sure that everyone's safe at home." She said, "It kept showing you're in the metro and you haven't moved there for 3 hours, and I thought something had happened to you." So the GPS had somehow, there was a malfunction and it showed her that I was in the metro and she thought I had probably had an accident. I haven't moved for 3 hours. Is my mom okay? And I was like, "No, I'm sleeping in bed. I haven't moved, but I'm not in the metro, you know?" But it was so funny, and we take it, like we're laughing about it, but it could have serious consequences for somebody else. So we have to realize at some point, yes, these are good systems, but they're also fragile because no one's building the whole stack. We're interconnecting different parts. And I was recently looking at a Reuters newspaper article, and it said, "You have now shared your data with 243 third-party providers. Do you accept?" So the choice is, do I accept and share my data, or do I read the article? And that's a tough one. Sometimes you're in a hurry and you just press the button, and I don't, the thing is, I don't know what data I'm sharing.
And
That's
why
my
it
problem.
matters. Like, does it matter? Does it not matter? Like, as consumers, how do we know? Obviously, it's
But
my
that,
bank details, no, but
but if it's my friends list, if it's just
like,
private stuff that's on my phone, I
you
don't
don't
know
know.
exactly.
And that's
Yeah.
why privacy statements
Well,
should
yes.
be easily accessible and easily understood as well. Mimi, I want to come to you actually. I was hearing a story recently about how schools have started to implement tooling where it takes the emotions of a child to determine if that child is learning, if it's feeling sleepy, things like that. In your view, on emotional data, should it be protected like biometric data?
Probably, but can't teachers tell if their children are feeling sleepy or not? I mean, why are we creating it in the first place, Emma? I mean, that to me is just AI for AI's sake. It's just such a waste of time, right? If you're a teacher in a classroom, if you have so little understanding of the human beings in your classroom that you need an AI to say the children need a break, I mean, let the AI run the class.
Wrong profession, my day.
You're in the wrong profession. So, but yeah, should it be protected? Yes, I think. I mean, if it were to exist, and quite frankly, if my child was in a school where they had that, I would take her out that school. Not because I'm scared of the AI, but just because I want her. We spoke about this earlier, to be educated by humans. But yes, if you were theoretically going to monitor the emotions of my child and then report on them and put them into some type of algorithm or report around that, then yes, it should be protected because she's a child and she can't give permission to have that data broadcast. But again, I just think we've all lost our marbles a bit. If we can't do the other stuff we're talking about and now we want to put it in classrooms with our most vulnerable human citizens, I think we've lost our way a little.
Melodena, do you have a view on that? Knowing your background in history.
So I come back to why are we using it? I'm doing some work currently right now on healthcare and AI systems, in AI and healthcare. And it's been really interesting because doctors are now forced to talk to AI because we want to make better predictive systems. but they have 20-minute appointments or 30-minute appointments, which are scheduled. And when I talk to patients, they go, the doctor's talking to the AI. It's like I'm not really there. And the doctor's been told, well, now you can save time because you can directly talk to the machine and will transcribe your notes so you don't have to write it. And now it's got a little bit confusing whether the hospital is a training place or is it about a patient and empathy for the patient. And I think if we lose our way on these small, small little things, then we have a course correction to do. So again, why are we using it? If it's for productivity, do we need to do things 500 times more faster? Because if I'm not giving that person half a day off to sit at home and paying them the full salary, I'm not sure we need to do it 500 times faster. At the other end, it is very clear that there has been some impact worldwide on jobs. And for the first time in my life, when I travel around and meet young people, I'm hearing them saying, I'm not sure if I can take a loan because I'm not sure if I'll have a job for 15 years. I'm not sure if I can start a family because I need to know that I will be employed. And I see so much uncertainty because World Economic Forum keeps changing the skills they need for the future, and the jobs of the future keep changing. What should I do? And I don't have an answer for that. And that is disturbing that young people are reaching this point of frustration.
Yeah, I agree. That is scary thoughts that the future generations are going through. So, Dr. Farzana, I'd like to come to you. As emotional AI becomes more sophisticated, how should governance frameworks evolve to address the risks of profiling, simulation, and emotional manipulation?
It all comes down to the same thing that we started the conversation with. The government should definitely start AI literacy programs for everyone. Let's not keep it limited to certain specific 3-tiered or 6-tiered goals. Teach people why before you give them the tools. Teach them why. And then we can introduce the government part where consent, first important part. Like you said, we sign these yes and no things. Can we inform people better? Why are they signing up? Give them a choice to opt out as well. Do the due diligence on the people who are building these technologies. Magnify their roles, magnify their responsibilities and job predicaments and what they are going to do. Check me, check my bio. Is Dr. Farzana really worth doing this AI deployment? What are her credentials? Because nowadays everybody is a ChatGPT brother. Let's just say it out loud. We are selling rappers out there and calling ourselves technology gurus, and that's nice if it's working for you, but that's where the dangers come in. We're all just rolling with it. I am so sure we have all used generative AI for so long and for so much, but have we ever thought that I am giving my DNA of my build to a bot to have my data being used in somewhere else? Maybe I didn't agree with that because I don't know. It just said yes or no. And my friends actually did that. They had these really cool AI pictures and I rolled with them and I did it. But I wasn't taught. Emma, like, literacy is not for the bigger corporations only. Literacy is for the mothers. It all comes back to how much are you educating people. Once the education part is done, then the governance should definitely be introduced in the lobbies, should be introduced in the SMEs, be introduced in the forms, and magnify who are building these platforms. We should take AI as a simulation, as more of a synthetic part, not as a replacement, not as an app launch. Anything comes off and we are all putting our data in and we are just going gala about it. But if literacy was there, if I understood what damage it could do to me, to my organization, even for bigger corporations where employees are now sending emails using ChatGPT, they are suscepting your whole corporate to miscreancies, to cyber crimes, to other things. The government is one part of it. And the government should definitely ensure that there is AI literacy. AI responsibility is a huge, important aspect. But for you and I to feel responsible, you and I also have to educate people about it.
Yeah,
Rather
agreed.
than keeping that in small boardrooms, we need to make it bigger. We need to introduce it. We need to teach it to people who don't know AI. Maybe the girl from Mimi's example who went and she spoke to ChatGPT and she was like, "Yes, I want you to tell me all these things." And ChatGPT is going to serve to provide that surveillance feature as well. It could track where the girl is going. The girl should know where the data is going. My point is, the more we educate, the more we talk, the more we are AI literate, the better the world could be.
And that's why we have AI Trust Talks.
That's why we have these wonderful conversations with people who know what AI can do. Like, because she's been looking at me every single time we talk about AI, and there's like this thought. And I think that was also a beautiful thing to say, that your children checked on you, that empathy. That's human centric. If it was an AI in the background doing human check on me, he would have reported me to the police or something, or maybe not even care, then close the program, because AI doesn't
Yeah.
care.
But you know what's interesting about kids as well? So my daughter's 7. She doesn't really know what AI is, except she thinks it's fake. So she can't tell you, she doesn't know, she's too little to really know the difference between maybe any sort of form of technology. She doesn't know what the AI is, but she'll say, no, mummy, that's AI, that's fake. It's not real. Like, that's her foundation, as her and her little friends. Their assumption is actually that everything's fake. So we heard an ad in the car last week on the radio for vitamin C. And I said to her, oh, babe, that reminds me, we didn't get your vitamins. She said, Mum, don't listen to that ad. They're lying to you. I said, what do you mean they're like? She says, they probably don't have any vitamin C in their sweets. And I said, well, what are you saying that? She said, well, because it's AI, it's fake. She doesn't know what AI is. But what she does know, even at 7 years old, is that there is something changing our world that's not real. And I didn't teach her that. I've never spoken to her about AI necessarily. I mean, maybe, but that's coming from children's school, teachers somewhere. So there is, interestingly, an awareness in that micro generation where they're very aware that something is shifting that isn't real. So I wonder,
Fascinating.
what will they think at 17 and then 27, you know? Very interesting, right?
World will change. On AI Trust Talks, we have a signature question at the end of every episode that we ask our guests. So this question is for all of you. What's the one belief about AI and trust that you hold, even if it's unpopular? Melodena, I'd like to start with you.
AI and trust that I hold, even if it's unpopular. AI is here to stay, and we will grow to depend on it more and more as the years come in. I'm not sure whether that's a very happy thought or a negative thought, but I hope we find the right balance on how much to depend on it.
Yeah, that's nice. Mimi?
I think that to a certain extent we can and we should rely on it. We can trust it. I think that because of all the negative news stories, especially as parents, again, we love to be scared. We love to be negative. We love to say, you know, it's helping children harm themselves. But I promise you, as a solopreneur, as someone who travels the world alone all the time, my use of the baby version of AI, which is ChatGPT or Gemini, I do trust it, and it really helps me because I don't have anyone else to ask most of the time, right? The challenges that I have in my work and my life, no one else knows the answers. I'm not sure that ChatGPT knows either, but I think it does a better job than me sitting in my bedroom in the Hilton all alone, questioning, you know, the meaning of life. So can we trust our bots and our AI? I think yes. Would you do that to the nth degree with no other context or support or information? No, but I like to believe that we can trust, especially the bots that are reflecting back the learnings that they have learned about you. Because my ChatGPT, like you said, I've done the roasting thing. It knows me far too well. But what that does mean is the advice it gives me tends to be advice that I probably would have given myself if perhaps I was in a, you know, I had more time to think. So I hope that's true. I hope we can trust it. Trust the machine.
Before I come to that part, I just want to add something here, very important to our discussion. Coming to where we started, the emotional empathy and then AI and how these are related. My biggest fear is empathy will be forgotten somehow. I don't know, that's like definitely a very negative thought in the back of my mind somewhere. But the emotional homogenization can happen, right? AI will tell me how to feel, and I don't want that. So that's why, coming to what is the most unpopular opinion I have, it will be very controversial to some people. AI is not the main character here, it's a side character. I'm the main character. AI is a tool. The commercial part of it is very hyped and whatnot, but the moment you understand AI is a tool, a doctor is supposed to be a doctor. AI's job is to take notes. A teacher is supposed to be a teacher, and AI can just be there to maybe do the grunt work for her. And AI could definitely do something in the background while I go and spend my time with my child, which sometimes is very difficult. I am the main character, AI is not. So I'll conclude with, let me write the book, let me do my thing, let me be the poet I want to be. AI's job is just to do my grammatical sentencing and check that out, right? That's what AI should be doing.
I love this. All I could think of when you're saying I am the character is that line from the Dubai Bling. Maybe this is a terrible thing to say, but when the lady says, I am the company, and all I can think of is you. It's this Hannah go, I am the main character.
The main character, we have to stop this overhyped thing about AI, this AI that we are still here talking on a pod, connecting with you all on a beautiful level, having these conversations. I think it's not going anywhere.
And empathy won't either. These skills won't go anywhere.
Won't.
We won't let them. And I think that people are more and more and more aware of it and share that opinion. The human race won't let this take away what is core to who we are. So just don't listen to all the media, the hype. The hype is the problem, Emma.
So, like I said,
Let's
all
take
write
away the
books.
hype and we're all going to be human and fine.
Let's have free time. It's going to give us a lot of things. Let's be the artists.
Yeah.
Let it do the grunt work.
I love it. Thank you for the
So
great snippets that we're getting there. It sound bites. Ladies, thank you so much for joining me on AI Trust Talks.
Thank
It's been an
you.
absolute
Thank
honor
you
and
for
a
having us.
privilege to hear all your experience and expertise.
Thank you so
Thank
much.
you.
It was
Yeah,
wonderful
thank
meeting
you.
you all. It was an amazing, amazing time. Thank you.
We hope you enjoyed this episode of AI Trust Talks. If you found it valuable, don't forget to like, subscribe, and share with anyone who might be interested. Join the conversation with us on Instagram at AI_trust_talks and follow along on Spotify, Amazon, YouTube. Your engagement helps us to keep these important discussions alive. From all of us here at AI Trust Talks, thank you for being part of this journey. Until next time, keep building trust where it matters the most.